Okay, Virgo, you never know which version is walking in, and I want to describe what that actually feels like to live with, not abstractly, in the specific body level way of someone who has learned through enough repetitions of the pattern to read the energy before the words arrive, who has become unconsciously expert at assessing in the first seconds of contact which version of this person is present today, the warm one or the other one. And the calibration happens fast, too fast, faster than you'd like, because you didn't choose to become skilled at this. You became skilled at it. The way people become skilled at things, they're repeatedly required to navigate through exposure, through the gradual, mostly invisible accumulation of pattern recognition that your system developed to protect you from being caught off guard by the switch. And it's exhausting. Not dramatically exhausting. The specific, low grade, barely nameable exhaustion of someone who is always slightly braced, who can never quite fully arrive in an interaction with this person because part of them is always monitoring, always tracking, always holding a small portion of themselves in reserve just in case the temperature drops without warning. You've been managing this for a while, and I think you deserve to have someone name how much that costs. Let me describe the hot, because it's real. I want to start there. The warmth this person brings when they bring it, the specific quality of their attention when they're fully present and fully turned towards you, that's not performed. That's not the strategic deployment of warmth to keep you engaged. It's genuine. And that's actually what makes this complicated. If it were manufactured, you could dismiss it more easily, file it under manipulation, and protect yourself accordingly. But it isn't manufactured. When they're warm, they're actually warm. When they look at you like you're something remarkable, they actually see something remarkable. When they say the things that make you feel seen and wanted and like you make sense to someone, they mean it in that moment completely. And that's the thing about hot and cold that the simple description doesn't capture. It's not that one temperature is real and one is performance. Both temperatures are real. Both are genuine expressions of something actually present in this person, which means you can't protect yourself from the warmth by deciding it's false, because it isn't. And the cold, let me describe that too, with the same honesty. It's not cruelty. That would be easier to navigate. If the coldness were hostile, if it arrived with edge or aggression or something you could point to and say, this is them being unkind, you'd have traction. You'd have a clear thing to respond to. But it's not that. It's withdrawal. The specific, almost impersonal quality of someone who has pulled their energy back, who is present physically or in communication, but has removed the particular quality of attention that makes presence feel like presence, who responds but doesn't reach, who is technically there, but in a way that makes you aware of everything that isn't there. And the withdrawal doesn't explain itself. That's the part that does the most damage. It just arrives without announcement, without the context that would make it make sense. And you're left doing what you always do when something doesn't make sense, running it, examining it from different angles, trying to identify what changed, what you did or didn't do, what produced the switch. And usually the answer is nothing you did, which is almost harder to land with than if you had done something. Hold on, because I want to go somewhere specific here that I think is the actual heart of this reading. This person is in conflict, not with you, with themselves. And I want to describe what that interior conflict actually looks like. Because I think understanding it, really understanding it, not as an excuse, but as an explanation, might do something for you. Might make the pattern make slightly more sense. Might make it slightly less personal, even as it remains something you have to decide how to navigate. They think you're too good, and I want to be precise about what I mean by that. Not too good in the sense that they've assessed your character and found it admirable. Too good for them specifically, for what they currently believe they're capable of offering, for what they think they deserve to have, for the version of themselves they're living as right now. There's a gap between who you are, the specific, fully arrived, self-possessed quality of what you bring, and who they feel they currently are. And that gap does something to them, produces in them a complicated mixture of wanting and inadequacy, and the specific fear of someone who has found something they recognize as genuinely valuable and simultaneously believes on some level that they're not equipped to hold it correctly. The warmth arrives when the wanting is louder than the fear. The cold arrives when the fear is louder than the wanting. That's the whole pattern. There's an image, someone standing at the edge of something beautiful, a view, something genuinely worth looking at, worth being in proximity to, and they move toward it, feel the pull of it, let themselves be drawn, and then something happens when they get close. Something in them registers the fullness of it in a way that produces not just appreciation, but a kind of overwhelm. And they step back, not because the view became less beautiful, because they got close enough to feel how much they want it, and the wanting itself scared them. The wanting made them aware of how much they have to lose, how much the loss would cost, how different their life would look if they let themselves fully arrive in the proximity of something this good. And the stepping back is protective, irrational from the outside, completely logical from the inside. That's what the cold is. The step back from the proximity of something they want so much, it frightens them. The more I sit with this, the more I keep finding something I need to say directly. The pattern is real and the explanation is real, and neither of those things obligates you to continue experiencing it indefinitely. I want to be very clear about that, because readings like this one, readings that provide context for confusing behavior, that explain the interior logic of someone who is hurting you, can sometimes land as, now that you understand, you should have more patience. Now that you see why they run, you should wait more graciously for them to return. That's not what I'm saying. Understanding why someone does something painful doesn't mean the painful thing stops costing you. The cost is still real. The exhaustion of the calibration is still real. The specific damage that hot and cold does to your nervous system over time, the way it trains you to be anxious in proximity to someone you care about, to be waiting for the temperature to drop, even in the warm moments, that's real. And you deserve to weigh that cost honestly, not through the lens of their explanation, through the lens of what this is actually doing to you. Wait, because there's something specific about what this pattern does to Virgo in particular that I want to name. It weaponizes your own analytical capacity against you, because Virgo, when faced with inconsistency, does what Virgo does: analyzes, seeks the pattern, tries to understand the mechanism so that the unpredictability becomes manageable, so that the next cold period can be anticipated, so that the switch can be explained rather than simply absorbed. And you've been doing that work constantly in the background, running the data of every interaction through your extraordinary perceptual system, trying to find the key that makes this make sense. And here's what that sustained analysis costs. It keeps you engaged with the problem. Every attempt to understand the pattern is also structurally an act of continued investment in the situation. You can't analyze something you've released. The analysis itself is a form of attachment. And this person, not consciously, not as a strategy necessarily, is benefiting from your analytical engagement, from the fact that your mind keeps working on them even in their absence, even in the cold periods, even when nothing is happening between you, something is happening in you. That's significant and worth being honest about. I want to describe something about what you want from this, not what you've settled for, what you actually want. Consistency, the specific, unglamorous, deeply necessary quality of someone whose warmth doesn't require explanation or tracking, who is there genuinely, reliably, without the temperature fluctuations that require you to maintain constant vigilance in a way that allows you to put down the monitoring, to arrive fully, without holding something in reserve, without the part of you that's always waiting for the shift. You want to be able to put your whole self in a room with someone without keeping one hand on the door. And this dynamic, whatever the explanation for it, whatever the genuine quality of what this person feels, this dynamic is not giving you that, is actively preventing that. Because you can't put your whole self somewhere when your whole self has learned that the temperature is unpredictable. There's something about where this person is that I want to describe, not to excuse, to complete the picture. They're not doing this to you. They're doing it because of something in them that has nothing to do with you specifically. Some unresolved thing, some fear or belief or wound that predates you entirely and that produces this pattern regardless of who they're in proximity to. You're not the cause, but you are the recipient. And being an innocent recipient of someone else's unresolved thing while understanding that you're not the cause is still a position that costs something real. Understanding the source doesn't reduce the cost. I want to say something about the perfect thing, the way they think you're perfect, because that's in the title, and I think it's actually one of the more complicated elements of this dynamic. And I want to examine it carefully because I think it's doing something in this dynamic that isn't as flattering as it sounds. Being someone's idea of perfect is its own kind of problem, because perfect isn't a person. Perfect is a projection, a surface onto which someone has placed their idealization without the friction of actual full knowledge. And people who idealize, who place someone in the category of too good, too perfect, more than I deserve, often relate to the idealized person from a distance, because you can't actually be with someone perfect. You can only be with someone real, and real means imperfect. Real means the full picture, not the selected highlights. Real means the specific, complicated, sometimes inconvenient truth of who a person is at every level of themselves. And if this person has placed you on a pedestal of their own construction, the cold moments might partly be the moments when the real you, the human, imperfect, fully dimensional you, shows through the idealization enough to disrupt it. And the disruption produces a retreat, not because you've done something wrong, because you've been human in a moment when they needed you to be the projection. That's not a dynamic that serves you. The last thing, I want to ask you something, not rhetorically, as a genuine question worth sitting with. What would you need to see from this person specifically, concretely, over what period of time to believe that something has actually changed? Not what would feel good temporarily, what would constitute actual evidence. because I think you deserve to know your own answer to that question before this goes any further, before the next warm period arrives and the pull of it makes the question feel unnecessary. Before the specific quality of their warmth, which is real, I said that and I meant, it makes the cost of the cold feel manageable again. Know your answer, not as a threat you're issuing, as information about yourself that you carry clearly into whatever comes next. Because the pattern is what it is, the explanation is what it is. What's yours to determine is what you're willing to continue experiencing and what you require before you continue experiencing it. That's the one question in this entire dynamic that only you can answer. And it deserves your honest attention more than the pattern does, more than the explanation does, more than understanding them does. Understanding yourself in this is the work that actually matters. If something in this touched something true, if a moment landed somewhere you needed it to, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me what resonated, even just a few words. It means more than you know,